using computers. These two then merged together. We then started seeing some robotic things where producing a car was no longer about just a conveyor belt and people working, but it was always now coming to introduce where producing a car, you will have some robotic arms that can start putting a door together and be able to start welding some of the things into the door and welding things into the car, which is some of the challenges that we started thinking about, the fact that we might be starting to lose employment and people might be starting to be reduced in your normal production level of what can be done. So this is then when we knew, I mean, a couple of years ago, that computers are becoming controlling in the life that we do. And we started owning computers, people started studying computers, and people started doing a lot of knowledge and understanding of computers. Again, in this era, because it came before our democracy, it came before we actually able to be free to go to different places, you will find that majority of people were not in a very good shape to understand computer-based work, and evenly they were actually victims of being being taken out of their jobs because of this kind of production that was being introduced, which was much more automated. Then we spoke last time, about then the fourth industrial revolution is where we are today. Today, you must not think in your head that people are still thinking about how the fourth industrial revolution would look like. We know for a fact that it is here. How do we know? We all carrying mobile phones, we all driving cars, and you all go in a taxi in Gautrain where there's sensors and these things are communicating amongst themselves. Today, when you're sitting at your own home, you are able to actually get a call or you're able to send a WhatsApp just because your cell phone has got the antenna that is able to communicate to a tower, start sending messages. It's even much more interesting. Within your house, some of the people in the call might be having an ability to use using their laptop or using their cell phone, move something on their cell phone and start watching it in a screen, in the TV screen. I think some of those people will be owning a smart TV at that particular time. I mean, some people are actually in other life, they are having a way of actually being able to order a taxi through Uber and able to come to their house, and they're able to track themselves as they're going through and navigating until where they are going to, with them being able to send tracking to wherever they are going to so they can see where they are. Welcome to the fourth industrial revolution. This is where the reality is. And again, as much as all these revolutions were changing, and you will have seen that the number of employees in each and every frame and in every places were reducing, people were losing work at the time. So is the time again, the fourth industrial revolution, which is calling for a different way of thinking, is calling for a different way of doing things, and is calling for us to start thinking differently on how we can assemble this con. So today, we're going to just start looking at what are the basics of this computer thing. I mean, what is the computer? What are the basic parts? I know some of the people in this call will think, wow, I've used the computer, I understand it. But because we, within the ANC, where I always say we're a leader of society, I'm starting this session to make sure that for those who might know, this is a recap. For those who don't know, this is the part that you want to start catching up, and you make sure that you're starting the same level. We're doing this in this week because when subsequently weeks going forward, we will be working on the assumption that you understand what is a keyboard, what is a mouse. And so we are using this week to remind each other the little bit of understanding of the background of what the computer is all about. Second level, we want to use it to actually be able to realize where the computer life is going. And then the third level, what are the things that make up this particular fourth industrial revolution and how it has changed. So I want whoever has used computers so many times in their life to bear with me today. I want us to catch up, all of us, in the same level of understanding and move in the same time. So one thing I want you to address before course, I know some of the people might say, no, this is not for me today. I will be leaving early. Next week, we'll be doing introduction to basic computing 101. So I would like just to make sure that before you exit, if you're going to exit early before we finish, just have that particular part in your mind that you're going to be doing. And you might as well, for next week, this is a homework when you finish today, and we'll repeat it again. I want us to start learning what is coding and how does coding work. So I will then invite you if you've got a smartphone, please just download this Grasshopper app, start playing with it so that you can understand the basics around around coding. And again, for people who are using laptops, you can just go to this particular site and you can start using it. It will look like this when you want to download it. And in your phone, this is how it's going to look like. So this is next week for just people who are gonna be exiting early, because I've heard that in Johannesburg there might be darkness coming for those who don't have alternative power. And I see Aubrey has joined us. So some of the people, some of the colleagues, Aubrey here, they need power, but the power might be going. So we need to start teaching the alternative power so that at least we know we can keep Comrades going even beyond what ESCOM can provide. So I'm starting then to my second week being what is the computer. We will then just engage each other on this particular one. And I know that Comrade Sasa, I'm not really afraid to work in a situation where people don't have to raise hand, they can be able to get in. So we'll keep Comrade unmuted at the same time so we can start talking with each other. So basic, very basic, and I think this is just really taking people too back for some of us who have worked so many times with computers. Basically, what is the computer? It's really just an electronic part, a device or an equipment that is able to use electricity, and then we really use it for, able to input information. It's got an accepted to a certain level of information. So every time when you are busy touching your laptop or touching your phone, you just need to understand that you are now interacting with a device which can be have a computing power in it, and it's actually able to input using the keyboard, and then within itself, it's got a way of getting the information. It processes the information from whatever you're inputting, and then it then get it out through an output. What is an output? We will learn very soon that the output will be a screen. An output could be a printer. An output could be anything that you can visualize the work that you have done. So if ever you look at your phone or you're looking at a laptop, depending how you're joining us today, just understand there's three components that are very important that you've got. You've got a keyboard, where it's where you type and do everything that you do in a computer. You've got a processor. You'll never see it because it's a box that is inside there. In your phone is whatever the old configuration that is inside the phone, that if you open and break it, you will then see a lot of things inside there, a chip and all different components that makes a processing power for that computing device that you are using. And then the other one, it's then become the output. And the output really match around the fact that you've got a screen or you've got a printer that you're able to project and move whatever you are doing, or whatever you wanted to, or what you inputted to come and be able to be seen in the screen to manifest. So this is really a basic that you must really understand about anytime. And I know some of us will still going to be going to interviews one day and we want to be working with computers. And some of these things are just general knowledge. You must know that there will be some way of inputting information. And these days, even going more complicated, your inputting device are so many things, cameras, there's a lot of sensors, biometrics where you put your thumb and it reads your thumbs, and then from then you can open the door. So all those kind of input points are things that are actually being introduced, we in the fourth industrial revolution, and able to work with them. And the other key thing to understand again about input capabilities, you will find that some of the inputs actually are things that you input in South Africa, for somebody who's in China to be able to see the output and be able to see your visualization as a way of being. So there's a lot of complexity and difference that has been done just because we're in the fourth industrial revolution. And then there's another one that I did not talk about earlier as I was talking about the importance. The storage is becoming one of the very interesting things that you are seeing a lot of changes around how storage works. Storage will be typically have been a hard drive or a mind of the computer sitting inside the computer. But again, because we're in the fourth industrial revolution, that has changed. Storage could be anything. I mean, for some of people who are old enough will have carried a floppy disk, and they would have carried a stiffy disk. It's a very big cycle thing. And I mean, I'll put some photos one day to come and see it, or one of the computers will have an input point for it. And then other people will remember, we then move on and came up with a CD and the CD, which you could record all your information in a much more bigger scope within the CD. Then we went even on, and then we came up with a SD card, which is a small card that you are inputting into your device and be able to carry, and that become a storage with that you can be able to carry around. Sorry, USB, I think was the first one. Unified, what they call it, USB, it's unified base storage. Whoa, I don't remember the whole part, but I know that there's a unified, universal, and there's a storage at the end. I don't remember the B part, what it means, but that was what I think some of us will still carry it around to be able to carry your folders and your files and go to another computer, input it, and be able to read whatever you need to read. And I know in some branches, when we start having to do things, that's how we carry information around to give to each other or to be able to translate to each other. But these days, there is something called cloud that is actually coming in as a storage, meaning I don't have to carry anything. I just need to be on the internet, save my folder in the cloud somewhere, and go to another computer, use my credentials to go in and be able to download it and be able to visualize in that particular computer. So that is becoming a very trendy and a very important thing that we are seeing every day. For example, let me just make an example of a cloud. A cloud could be what you use today. In some of us, comrades, with Netflix. Netflix is a cloud solution that put together the movies, and then as a result, that movies are becoming the way of how you can watch your own movies and be able to do what you want to do in terms of the movie part of watching. So that is the part of the storage part of it. I'm just gonna go in details now, comrade, and later on we're just gonna be looking at pictures on what this could be, and then just kind of like understand each other how we have gone to this route. These are the most important functions of any computation power or computation device that you've got, is to input, like I said, to process, and to output and to store. That's all. That's what it does every time. There's all other clever ways that it can be explained, and there's a lot of other clever ways it works. But majority and the basis of whatever happens, that is the cycle of how the whole part works. And again, these days there's a lot of new competing powers that we are seeing coming. We'll talk about them later in other times that we're going to be teaching each other. But for now, these are the basics of how it works. So let me maybe dive down a little bit and start talking about how this kind of like journey looks like, and where does it start, and what are the realities of it. Again, some people are in this call, I know they look at this, they start feeling much more younger, because this is where the computer have been for some of the people in the call. I'm not sure in terms of names of people who are here, who are the people who might have seen some of this particular interesting innovation of computing, where we started looking at Apple, and what you have today is an iPhone, iPad, in our lives, so 1980 something. This is how Apple came into being. It was a very big screen with black and white, with a very interesting Apple that is no longer written on the side. But for now it's not written, but before it was an Apple being chewed by this particular word which called Apple. This was the part of how computing actually in a personal computer started and how it looks like. There was a level where it was black and green. There's a level which was actually black and white, and then this level was black, and yellow. I remember when I was young, actually playing a computer, playing chess using such devices, because this is how it actually should look like. Today, it looks completely different. I'm just going to go to my next slide, which might be give you much more deeper parts. This is where you are today. This is what you're seeing. We're exiting. I won't say we're on it now. We're actually exiting this particular life where people have got PC computers in their home or in their offices. Some of them are very powerful, and they can process very high data and high information, high movies, high things that can happen, and high gaming that can be done. And some of the ones are just a home kind of little concepts where kids are able to go in and do their homework into this part. This is the computer I want just to introduce a little bit into your mind, and I don't think most of us have seen it before. It's called Raspberry Pi. So if ever you go and say to your Google and say Raspberry Pi, it's a very small box with a very interesting power behind it. We are using it a lot when I'm teaching in rural areas, because of the fact that we can carry it around and we can help kids to learn coding very fast. So if ever you are looking for a computer, basic computing, and you want to use open source as your way of actually be able to do things, just go and check for a Raspberry Pi complete computer. It costs around about 1,400 rand. And I mean, you will need a screen, you will need a keyboard, and you will need a screen and a keyboard and a mouse. And by the way, the total cost, when I really calculated it, I didn't spend more than 2,500 buying all those things, putting them in together. It's got a Bluetooth on it, it's got the Wi-Fi in it, it's got everything that you are looking for. And this is where the world is going, by the way. Very small, but very effective and able to produce powerful things it's supposed to be. So basically, when you carry on and doing some of these courses, will pass a lot on kind of things like Raspberry Pi, and I will talk about something called Macrobit, which is just one card, but it's a complete computer that you can use to actually be able to learn coding and to code devices to do things for you. This is, by the way, where the history comes from. This is a computer that was used to process some of the cards, I mean, for a certain production that was happening in those particular years. I just want to pull up my notes so I can just tell you, this was like 40 years ago. This is how developing any application or a program would have looked like. And this is kind of like a powerful machine that you would have had to have. You can see, I mean, you need a whole room to put it down and to be able to do things, okay? Here's another one that I want us to remind each other for those who might have not seen this before. These are the invention of what a computer, where it started and where things really started to put together. This is 1800, when a computer used to use the punch card as the way of actually being able to put in a code. I don't know how many of us have seen, I forgot the name of it, but it rolls around and it makes noise and makes music according to the bumps that have been done onto it. You just need to simulate a similar part. This it was able to read the punch card, and it was able to process and be able to do calculations and be able to do processing that was need to be done in the particular part. This young person who's being portrayed here is one who came up with this Charles what's his name, Bondage, who actually came up with a mechanism and automation of using a card to feed information and be able to calculate using a computer simulation. And by the way, it's 1800s. Just think about it, what was happening at the time. According to the fourth industrial revolution, it was within the first revolution or industrial revolution, meaning this was using a steam. It was not using electricity. So it was very interesting combination of innovation, coming up with a card, coming up with the steam, and be able to power and be able to start replacing some humans who would have calculated by hand, but using this to be able to do the calculations of some of the part of the calculations that they were doing at that time. So this is another level of computing, and that was then introduced, which I think some of us would have known something called server rooms, but this is more or less again a way of how electronically computers were introduced. So when you look at the Steam one, it might have been a certain level of like very open, not that big. Here is now a socket of an electricity able to power a computer. So this connection is really connection of electricity into a computer. Again, I want us to have those kind of thinking and understanding so that you don't just see a cell phone today and then think this is where the computer started. The computer started a long time ago, 1800, when there was no electricity, and the only way that you could work was just about using steam. And this is now the invention of where electricity comes into being. So now moving computers from being just a innovation into start doing some work that was supposed to be done. One thing that I want just to illustrate here, the computer first is this room. So what you saw earlier on being a small box, as I said, was Raspberry Pi. This would have been a computer in these particular years. And this is about 1800 to 1900. And these are people who are actually using a computer. And this, the card that you saw that was using a steam, this is now a small card, and this is where the output is. This is the input point, which is more keyboard based, and this is how we were inputting information in these particular years. These are some of the disks that were being used. So the whole of this room is actually one PC of a computer that was actually working in these particular years. Again, Visualize this because it just tells you how far we've gone and how far we can still go if ever we start using this particular knowledge correctly. And this is part of the, I'm just going to show the part of the disk, what I was talking about USB and how small they've become, and the cloud. This is a disk, by the way, how it used to look like. So this is where information used to be saved. And this is how it was progressing from there into being able to be a processor and being something that we are using. I mean, that we've exited using it. But I mean, these are the kind of things that will combine a storage of a computer at that particular years. Okay, I'm just going to show these pictures because I'm just a repetition now in some of the later years, how things started to convert and to look like. And then we started having some of your computer rooms, which were dedicated to putting some of your storage devices. We're talking of a floppy disk and a cloud. This is how cloud used to look like in these years. It was like what some of us would have seen in the school, Bioscope. I don't know if you remember Bioscope sometime, where there was a roll of a movie, and then they were inserting it at school, bafaka plastic obamnyama around the windows. China plastic omnyama was not to collect a rubbish bin like today. A black plastic, we should know it in school as a way of closing the windows. And once they close the windows and dark, after paying 50 cents or 1 rand, depending if it was Rambo, it was Commando, or whatever movie it was at the time, or figure now, he will decide what we must watch. This is similar, it's a similar concept, but it was not a movie belt. It was an information belt that was actually storing information and was able to save things wherever. I mean, elections, if it were done this time, you will find that when you're counting election, would have moved with this particular disk from wherever the VD is and go all the way to Pretoria where they're counting and put it in and count. Because there's no internet, there was no way of being able to transfer information. Today, I can tell you if ever elections are finished in saying what, we don't have to count. Once we finish counting, we then send the results where in the central point using the device that the election official would have carried, automatically that get uploaded to a server somewhere and the calculations start happening in Pretoria. So I'm just giving you the picture of what could have been that time and what it is today. Just want to move up. Okay, this is a repeat. I apologize. I did not delete. Okay, these are some of the devices that I've spoken about in terms of the level of service or level of storage or servers that we actually use in those particular old years. Some of these, by the way, you can still buy them, but they're not functional. And you can just buy them just for display, just to make people know where we're coming from, where we're going. I mean, this is some now when computers starting to be personal. So the before one was more industrialized computers. This was the first personal computer, we can call it, where people could buy their own. We called it macro computer at that particular time. It was affordable enough for somebody to buy it for home use. This is in 1975. So whoever was born in 1975 should just realize that this is the time when they were born, and this is the same actually with this particular level of computing. This is the basis of where the computer started. And you can see black and white. This is the processing unit. This little part here, by the way, this is where the disk would have gone in for that information that has been saved and then being moved around to another person. So this is a disk mouth, and then this is the processing unit. This is our keyboard and the screen. Very big box. You will have had to have a very big table in your house to be able to contain one. Some of us entered this life of computing in this particular level when the computers were starting to be smaller and they were starting to be kind of like making sense in the way they work. So this was the computer that was introduced as like now not just a personal affordable computer for people who can, but we started seeing schools and some of the adoption that was going to be carried on into some training levels of computer, and some companies, small companies, starting to adopt this part. Yeah, I don't know if anybody remember a double deck taping device. The same concept here. It's a double deck where you could copy one disk on another disk, or you can run this concurrently as disk to power the computer to move. Some of people sitting in this call, I'm sure you've used a typewriter before. You will look at this thing, you will think of a typewriter. And then you will understand that the idea of innovation was converting some of the typewriter, I mean, not converting them, but looking at the same ideology when you're coming up with computing. Again, you might be carrying Mac or iPhone today. This is the inception of what the iPhone would have been and what it will have looked like at that particular time as an Apple Mac or whatever thing that you want to be considering as. And just one last one, and this one I always treasure it. But this is where I learn my computer life. This is an IBM computer, and I mean, this is not the picture of the one I used, but it's exactly the same computer that I used actually when I was in, we used to be standard at the time, standard 5, when I learned actually how to use the computer and start moving things around officially in the class. So I always love this picture because it actually gives me a lot of historical memories of how we used to separate things into this thing inside the box and able to convert information, and actually created a lot of legal code on how to calculate school results and how to know who passed and who failed. And this is where the learning was. So I'm sure in this call, there might be some people who might have sharing the sentiment. I'm just going to start moving faster now because some of these pictures are just creating more and repeating again. Let me just maybe talk on this one before I move faster. Some of us today, and majority of us actually, have entered the part of computers using your personal computer or a laptop. If you have seen yourself carrying a laptop, a small, nice little PC and a thing that you're actually enjoying every day, this is where the laptop came into the industry. This is kind of like not necessarily a laptop at the time. It was a personal computer called, because it was much more personal and people can only use it themselves. So people carry it around with ease. So you can see, I mean, the screen, it was a screen, keyboard, I mean, and the processor. And now we're no longer using a floppy disk, we're using a stiffy disk in this life, by the way. So that's why you can see that the mouse is a little bit smaller, it's not big anymore. It's just a depiction of the fact that we are using a smaller disk that was able to get in and be able to carry around with ease. Now I want to say again, welcome to the new life when laptops becomes the reality. One thing I will ask, by the way, in this particular part as I pause, I will ask Ulona Ukatu. He will put on the IM link as that we're going to be using as a register. So if ever everybody, you can just click on that particular link and then just give us your details. Just the fact that you've attended this particular session, that is important for us. So Katu will just put it out there, and then he will keep on just rotating it every, I think, about 10 minutes Katu, so that people can still on remember, just to make sure that they put their information in that. So let me maybe just move ahead then into the new life that you are living these days. So the new life that you are living is now the laptops, and everybody knows the laptop. Simple thing. If you haven't seen it before, it's a keyboard with a processor, again, as I always have said, and the screen that project back to you whatever you are inputting from the keyboard. It's got a lot of ability on the side to plug in different devices, and you are able then to communicate with your printer. You're able to communicate with all the different things or different devices that you are using at that particular time. Very important to understand, because I know majority of people in the call and other people, this is the life that they are used to, and this is what they have seen as they entered into the computer world. This is the life that some of the other fancier way of doing things have happened. I mean, we now know of things that are called tablets. We call them tablets. We call them, I mean, what else? iPad, depending on the products that you are using at this part. Microsoft has got something called Surface, which is the same similar concept as an iPad. I mean, this is a Plum. This is a first Apple. Kind of like your I don't remember what they used to call it. It used to be called message pad. It was a message pad that you actually was introduced before you have seen something called iPad after then. So very I within your iPhone, iPad, you will see it mostly in this level of being I, meaning me. This is my device. It's kind of like a personal thing that you're using and able to interact with it in a personal level. So your iPhone, your iPad, your all kind of devices, those are kind of devices that are much more tuned to what you being personal about it. So a couple of, I mean, these are very small, very powerful. They process a lot of things, and a lot of things can be done in this particular level. Let me just put it up into how these similar devices look like for other companies. Then the Macintosh. These are the other tablets that you will see in the market these days. Some of them are a laptop that can turn up to be a tablet. I mean, the Yorker, a lot of people have Yorker where they work, where they can fold the computer and then use the screen only. Others will turn them around and be able to use the standard level. Others are just screens. And some of the kids actually were born in these years, in the past 3 or 4 years, they will never know the keyboard. because they only understand touching the screen and give instruction directly. So your input and output is working dually in one particular part device, in some of the devices, similar to what you see in your cell phone these days. I always say when I get here, VAR was here, because I don't know when you entered the cell phone life. A cell phone is it then became a next level of computing power that we have in our hands. Meaning today, some people are joining us from a level of a level of a phone and having the same capabilities like what I'm doing now with the tablet. They are seeing me normally. They can see the presentation while they're seeing my face, while they could hear us, and anything I do, they can see it very much with ease. This is the level of what computing power we carry on a cell phone. It's a computer by itself. It works in a very big way these days as a device that is slowly replacing your personal computer or even a laptop. Let me take a step higher. By the way, this journey has been interesting. I normally use this when I talk about network, but I'm not going to talk about the network today because I think it's another topic that we'll cover another day. But I want us to talk about the fact that this is the power that you are carrying today. Today, we're in a level where this little device can do so many things. I can be able to use it for data-centric kind of things, doing data processing. I'm able to use it for volume of things that I can be able to move around. I can watch a movie on it. I've got a very rich connectivity I can do and search content. That's how Zoom can actually be able to be received on a cell phone. Before then, in the 2014 and all those parts, you only would have had any capacity of saying a phone could have been an Apple, or it could have been, your Samsung, which only can do just a high resolution video and some apps, some voice part, and the mobility of being able to carry information around it. Oh, by the way, I don't know in this call how many people had even called BlackBerry. If ever you are born past 2015, I don't think you will understand what Raspberry is. Raspberry was, BlackBerry was a phone similar to Nokia, which I think majority of people in this call who were born in 2000 and let's say 2016 would have not known what Nokia is the way we know it in the years that we were in during the cell phones. Very interesting solutions that were introduced or capabilities which were focused on data, internet, and this is when we actually were able to work with internet and be able to receive information from other people. I mean, Samsung, by the way, used to have a phone. I don't think anybody would remember that. And the legal creation and I think used to be when you carry this phone, by the way, it was one of the smallest phones you could carry, judging from the history of the phones. And by the way, it used to be very unique if ever you have this phone, but it was gray and black in the screen only. There was no color. Color only came in this particular time. So again, the history of computers as they became like a big room. I'm just trying to illustrate to yourself that we have moved from a big room, we moved into a device with a screen, a keyboard that looks like a typing machine. And then from then we moved to a little bit companion, a little bit good looking with color kind of computers. Then we moved into a laptop and we moved into iPad kind of concept. In the same time, then we've got phones that are actually being able to do this part. I'm looking forward, by the way, to this particular era of life where this same device no longer going to be called a phone. It's going to be a same device, whatever device going to be called. But more than anything, this device will have a power to do a lot of things. And actually, it doesn't have to be as colorful as this one. It could be just a glass that you'll be able to transit and do things with it. Some of us have seen something similar to it because of the technology level that you are working in, but I'm looking forward to see what does it mean for most of us. We have been in this particular era, and I don't know how many people are currently still wear a watch, because this watch is really being phased out slowly in the reality of where life is. Today, we call them wearables because it's now a device and it's computation power again that is actually carried by this little watch for a lot of things. Most of them, you will find that if ever you've got this watch, you are able to monitor your health and monitor the activities you do. You can do the watch thing somehow if you still want to. It's got a calendar system of being able to remind of your meetings. It's a phone in some of the instances. It's a monitoring of wherever you're going and working. It's a lot of things that is actually being computer empowered in this level. Meaning these days, I mean, I do have one of the watches, by the way, where I can even answer a call on my watch. And I don't necessarily have to carry my phone everywhere I go. I can leave it in the in the bag that I'm carrying at the time. If it comes in, the watch can tell me who's calling. I can answer that person. I can either use my Bluetooth legal thing in my ear, or I can talk to the watch directly. And then I will have a conversation that is normal for everything. While I'm maintaining being healthy, and while I'm making sure that I understand the weather patterns of where I'm going. And thirdly, as I'm running, it's actually tracking how much kilometers have I ran, what kind of calories have I burned, and all interesting health stuff and healthy lifestyle that we're actually living these days. And by the way, this is why they say that some of the people going forward, they will be living longer, just because of the fact that all these things are actually helping us to be healthy and to be able to actually do things much more better. So this is the level of computer or computing power that you are carrying around us these days. This is the other level of computing power. By the way, a camera used to be something that had a film in it. And I mean, if you remember Kodak, I don't know how many people know Kodak, what it was. It's no longer there. I mean, and I don't remember how many people in the call. I don't know how many people in the call who will remember. Maybe Comrade Tandy will remember somehow when you will go to game and go to to say I'm going to watch pictures and coming with a film. That is actually where you've got all your pictures, and you could only take, I think the biggest you can take 32 pictures. These days, that is gone. These days, you've got devices can take thousands of pictures. And by the way, in some scenarios, millions of pictures, like what you see here in this particular device, which is not just a camera, it's a very intelligent device that is actually currently making movies, doing a lot of things that you will never imagine. A legal carrying of such a device, which is what we used to call a camera, which is now a digital, I don't call it digital what, but it's actually able to take more than 1,000 pictures, a minimum. And by the way, you can edit them, you can change them. You don't have to wait to go to game or go to clicks to go and watch them before you understand the quality of a picture. You can actually be able to edit them, you can cut them, and you can be able to get exactly the quality of where you want to go and how you want to see it. They used to be big, and there's still this particular level of lens and these big lens parts. Some of them are very small with a very powerful lens though, which covers the same range as this particular one. So again, digitization and this fourth industrial revolution makes things even much more interesting, where these cameras can communicate to a sensor and being able to secure your house and open the house for you. Or the same similar devices as cameras can be able to be put into a drone, more especially on this level, a drone, and they can be able to shoot a movie which would have required a helicopter, but with just a drone, which is not manned by anybody, it can take a movie similar into the same level of what you could have done by a person sitting in the helicopter. And here's another life that I think some of us are entering or will be entering soon with all this, with the economic transformation that we are always pushing for in our lifetime. It is the life where all these things that you have seen before being in the context of the, what we call this, the one to be able to toss the bread. By the way, it's the same thing, but this one is much more intelligent. You can even tell it into what level of heating and what level of well done or whatever that you want to be done, and personalize it, and you'll know that's going to do the that way. I mean, who understand the fact that these days key is an option, but the code is what you want. In some of the hotels, by the way, you now come in with your card and you just touch the hotel door and it opens for you because the card is already being programmed that way. By the way, where life is going, when you come to check in at Hilton Hotel, and I mean, when we come into the level of real life, this after COVID, it will be able, by the way, to look at your face as I entering you and actually capturing you as a client. When you come in, when you go upstairs to your room, it will actually capture your face and open the door for you and welcome you by your name, because that's how computer work is going to be going in the future. And again, this is one of the devices that you will see in a lot of houses going forward, where one little device is going to be able to control everything in the house, the lights, control the fan and the actual air around the part, tell you the humidity and the way the temp in the house, and be able to tell you exactly the house and the condition of the house. Here's what is interesting, by the way. Some of the work I do in KwaZulu-Natal sometimes. So it's interesting to see, by the way, some of the fridge that were stored in macro during the looting was this level of a fridge that cost about 68,000 rand, which is fully computerized. And you can just imagine somebody stealing this, and in a looting spree where it's going to go, and the amount of computing power it's got, and the amount of energy that is required to power up the fridge. By the way, just to tell you about the fridge itself, it's got a computer device that communicates directly with some of the shops. It's able to order and able to process delivery within the fridge itself without you telling it. It knows. It can actually knows what is inside the fridge. If there's milk, if there's no milk, if you have the milk about to finish, it's gonna order it. By the way, it's so good that it can actually sense and it does know as it learns and the routine of what you do every day. It orders the milk.
No, let's out it's short
Yeah,
milk.
one day it will talk. Yes, let's go on mute. It will talk one day. Let's keep going. So it can actually order milk.
You see why I put serious security measures.
But you will have missed that nice comment of like, it's gonna talk. so as I carry on this part, it's so intelligent that it will tell you. It tells the shop. It actually, see, we've got something called Take a Lot that I think some of us might be understanding of it. You can just imagine this fridge, you will be able to order and be able to process payment because your credit card will have been noted already and able to order things to come to you. Comrade, I would like to say, as I little bit pause on this one, this is why the economy transformation in our lifetime is important, because we don't want to lose this life, not because we want to own these particular devices. Can you imagine some of the kids in Soweto, if they can innovate to the level of this fridge? That means one day we might not be buying Samsung, we might be buying something that is innovated in our own country, by our own kids that are growing today. And that's why the importance of inspiring to be able to own some of these devices, not because we have to own them, but just own them to inspire young people so they can start converting this particular fridge written Samsung that comes written in English, some of them in Chinese, because the China, if ever they are doing them, that's how they produce them, to start being written in Shivenda and start being written in Xhosa, start being written in Zulu, so that you can start talking to us and talk who we are. Then from there on, this is the innovation that you can start enjoying in the fourth industrial revolution. By the way, at this time, we're now in the fourth industrial revolution very strongly. And I mean, the speakers are no longer just a speaker because it's a boom thing and in music, but it's an interactive speaker where I talk to it, it talks back to me. When I come into the house, it actually knows I'm coming from work. It will then greet me by my name. And by the way, because I'm wearing a watch that is actually intelligent, it will say, by the way, I can see that you've got a lot of stress from work today. By the way, you need to do exercise, you haven't done your exercises. Or you start playing the music that's gonna calm me down because it understands my watch is telling it that because of what I've been going through the day and the way my heartbeat have been and the way my pulse have been and all the readings been doing about my body, it actually can be able to start giving me a diagnosis of what I am when I walk into the house. By the way, you can just think about it now. A doctor is something that somebody we're gonna visit because we've been advised by such a speaker. Not that you're gonna just walk into a doctor and say, I'm coughing, I'm not sure what is happening. The devices that we are carrying in our body and their computing power match with such things, they will be able to diagnose us and be able to do us correct. By the way, I'm still gonna say this again. This is a computer. It's not a speaker. So it's no longer a DJ pushing music from Ukhozi FM or Mhlobo NN. It's actually this device being able to interact with you and play what you are looking for because of where you are and what you are looking as a way of being. How does the house then look like with all these interesting devices? This is the house. Again, we spoke about this earlier on. For people who joined late, might have not heard us. We're now talking solar. We're now talking batteries as a way of actually being able to power your house. So this is more or less the house that we are envisioning. Some of us who are in innovation by work, this is what we're busy brainwashing everybody to move towards. I'm using brainwashing because I want comrade to understand that the level of how technology works, it's not something that you ask for your permission. We actually work you slowly into it up until you understand that a solar panel is actually something that can power your house and power your geyser. If you walk in Alexander, by the way, and look at all the places and how government of Johannesburg has done the way of making sure that some of our people who might be living in poverty, but they still enjoy a certain level of, during winter, they can still have hot water to be bathing with. And you will have seen our innovation and the way that we have put in solar panels in some of the affordable houses that you are busy building for our society. So this is the start of our revolution and how we have turned around what could have been a crisis of electricity Now we know that we are powering a lot of other houses without demanding too much grid from electricity, and the solar panels are in there. By the way, solar panels are future. They are no longer the past. So if ever you've got a solar panel in your house, whatever the house is, it's really modeling up to this level of a house in any case. And again, there's something you're going to see slowly coming in, that this solar will start powering a battery that is sitting somewhere in your house to make sure that you can have energy and be able to have electricity even when things are down. Meaning all the sun you are getting during the day is actually powering you, your little ESCOM at your house, so that at night it then become a light for your whole house and be able to run on that. Some of the houses are already running out of grid, meaning they are not even going to ESCOM anymore. They are busy running directly from this particular way of electrification. I've got a friend who actually ran his house in a whole thing with a battery and solar panels. And the way it runs, it actually runs by itself independently. And then if ever there is any issue of weather, it then kicks in a little bit of ESCOM just to balance up the weather part of it. The last one that I wanted just to maybe point it out, and you'll see in my next slides as we talk, it's now moving that all the way, the fact that your garage is no longer a garage just because you park your car. Your garage will be, it will be your petrol, well, it will be like a petrol station, let me put it that way, because that's where your car energy will come from. You will be able to go in when you park your car, you must plug it in because you are powering it for the next day. Because by that time, starting already, it will be an electrical car. It's no longer going to be a car that you use the level of the level of fumes from a petrol. If I look at my time, I'm just going to go a little bit. I think I'm left with about 5 slides, then I'll be finished for today. And then from there on, where is this going, by the way? It's going to a level that even when it comes to entertainment, and I don't know how many of you have been to this virtual reality, meaning I'm putting something in my eyes and it takes over my whole body as if I'm in that particular part. I love what I've seen before in other places where I've been, where this becomes a way that you can be able to watch a movie and participate in a movie. Meaning James Bond is no longer something you see on the screen. You might be part of the James Bond movie and playing with it. Actually, everything comes to you as if you are part of it, you are running in it. So this is kind of like the new virtual realities and virtual presence that you have seen being introduced in so many places, just to allow the way of new life. Again, I want you to be very clear. She is wearing a computer device that is plugged into another computer to power it with information, and the part of knowledge is supposed to be there. If we think about it, comrade, why we're doing this and actually teach you to this level is to understand that our kids need to start looking, and us, we need to look at this opportunity somehow to bring them home. I mean, if ever I'm exposed to just Sunday, how am I going to be able to go to some of the branches and empower them with understanding of this, so that when you're talking about being a leader of society, we don't get left behind because we are busy doing it door to door in a traditional way. When the child, and this child who grew up this way, who is now 18, have to vote for us, the only thing he understands is VR and all those parts. He has never seen the president talking to him in this level. He only sees him in the paper and on TV, which then doesn't mean that you are winning that child, because the opposition might be in this level if ever we are not leading before and be the one who are powering how virtual reality could be the way, and augmented reality could be the way that you're going to be leading society and teaching society about our democracy that you are in. This is now, I mean, you've gone to the shops, you've seen some of these things. This level I want us to talk about, I mean, your receiving of some of your packaging. By the way, you can now go to the garage or you can go to other places. This is how you receive your packaging you might have ordered online, this device. Very soon, this device, it won't be a car coming to put it in from the back. There will be a drone that will fly from somewhere where the factory is. It will come in and be able to deposit into this particular device. This device will sort it out to say, Sunday, this compartment will be this one, and then will send an SMS that has been delivered. SMS will have a PIN number. When I come here, I will click on my PIN, it opens, and my medication will have been there. I don't have to go to pharmacies anymore, because it can be delivered in that particular way. And the other parts that I wanted just to talk about, I don't know how many of us again have been to McDonald's. McDonald's, you used to go to that good-looking sister or good-looking brother in front of you and then be able to order your burger. That is gone. This is how you're now ordering your McDonald's. You order it on the screen and you pay in the screen and you just go and collect. And very soon you're not going to have anybody collecting from. You'll be able to walk into a place where after you've ordered and paid, your baker will be coming to you. Oh, by the way, your baker will be coming to you printed. So instead of it being cooked, this will be printed. And again, when you talk about 3D printing, you'll understand that food very soon will be printed. It won't be cooked and it won't be flipped. It will be a matter of just putting all those devices as an input to a printer, and the printer will actually inject and be able to print that particular food you'll eat that day. One day I'll show you a video that is already illustrating how that's going to be done. So I'm going to pass this one. I mean, this one is kind of like old technology. This is where the printing is going. And this is, by the way, all of these are printers. Some of us know this as Mshino Tunga. And now this is a printer for some of the garments that you are wearing and some of the printers are happening. This is a laser cutter that is actually cutting a board. This can do within a second. It can cut the whole box and be able to give you all the pieces on how you're going to assemble it. These two, I must tell you, these are computers. These are not just a machine anymore. This is not a this is a computer with a computing power to take a design and be able to put it on the flat and be able to then start plotting it and then cut it with a laser. A 3D printer is, I spoke about food as a 3D printer. This is just how a 3D printer looks like. And what we normally do these days, by the way, we normally get invited by a lot of schools and a lot of churches to come with our 3D printers that we own, to come and set them up for them to see how they work and teaching kids how to create 3D printing. You can see it for now that is just doing a 3D printing of this model. There's huge 3D printers that can print a house. The other week, we showed the one that can print the wall by building the wall. I mean, we know of the fact that the house will be printed. Car parts are being printed these days. Go to Pretoria. I don't know why we don't have things like your company visit anymore. I think, Comrade, might be a project for the Youth League to start to come up with things called company visits. If you go to BMW in the precinct in Pretoria and Tshwane, you will find that some of the dashboards and some of the bumpers are no longer being molded and put on fire. They actually get printed by a plastic-based printing injector that prints the whole model of what will be in the dashboard and what will be in the printer. Similar to this, it does the same thing as a printer of some sort and using laser to be able to print it in this particular way. So here's where I wanted just to arrive, why your house in the garage will have its own way of powering. These are the cars that are currently existing. It used to be cars of the future. A Tesla is in South Africa. It's not yet on sale, but I know two companies that I actually have ordered them and they're going to be coming on sale. Meaning this car, by the way, it's a car that is all fully electronic. It runs on batteries. It doesn't have a typical engine. It's got just chips and devices like a computer. And more than anything, at the bottom of the car, so at the bottom here, it's actually got full of batteries. That's the only thing it's got. You're sitting on top of these batteries that are being powered by the plug that is in your garage, which is the same plug that you're using for a kettle, but you're going to be using for a car now because it can be able to power the car. And by the way, these cars were being trained. On top, you see things like cameras, because this is a preparation of a new version of cars, which these cars will be able to drive themselves. For all the people in the call, we used to have something called Michael Knight, the rider, what they call it, Knight Rider. Ooh, you will remember if you know it, that particular noise. The Knight Rider was actually a conceptualization of a self-driving car. Today, we've seen it. And I always say to Comrade, I've been in Europe, where I actually went into a self-driving car and I was actually transported by it. There was no driver in the driving seat. It's a very, very, very catchy and very threatening experience, but it's a very interesting reality that you are going to, where SASA, your car can be able to move itself from the lower ground parking to come and wait for you by itself, because it knows that you're about to come out from work and you're about to come from the door. And when it's going to open the door, because it knows you, but then nobody else can be able to get into it unless you give a permission that should be able to collect the person. Where you are able to sit in one meeting, and you are in Johannesburg and you know that you must be going to Pretoria, get into the car and be able to open up your laptop, start working, and end up in Pretoria. and then be able to continue from where you ended from the car. And again, I mean, some of the people in the call where you'll be able to host your Teams meeting and your Zoom meeting inside your car and don't have to touch anything, because you can be able to present like I'm doing while it's driving you to your next destination, because you have to get home in time. So this is the reality of what amount of computing power we have moved. Right now, as I summarize, let's just remember one thing. We spoke about the computer as a room full of so much and using a steam up until you use electricity. Now, in this level, we are talking about the computer as part of the car. And by the way, it's got a battery and solar driving the actual charging in the house, because ESCOM might not be reliable. And where ESCOM is fine, it can continue being able to be used by ESCOM. By the way, the iPad is no longer what you carry, but it's a device that you meet in your car, or in your hand there's a watch, or in the phone as what you're carrying, and in the laptop if ever you get to work. And this is the level of computing power that you are in. So what we able to illustrate today was really a summary of what computer history would have been, so that when you understand, then when you go next, you can say we're doing coding. It's no longer about us explaining you the mouse and all those parts. Whatever device you'll be using is from tomorrow, it's a computer itself. So don't come back and ask me, but I don't have a computer, I can't do this. You can do it on your phone. You can do it on any device or tablet. You can do it on your actual work computer, or you can do it on a laptop that you've got at a particular time. And some of the people I know that they can do it even on a TV in some of the instances. By the way, this is the fourth industrial revolution illustrated. Whatever device you're carrying, able to all talk to each other without any link at all to each other, just using the power of internet, from a watch into some devices that you know, to the laptop, to your microwave, if ever you need to switch on, and you need to remind you that you're not supposed to be having a coffee at the same temperature. Or here's a very interesting one, by the way. Umshayelo lo osubeka emva komnyango is no longer an in thing. These days, there's robotic sweeping machines that at any time 4 o'clock in the morning, it wakes up and it starts sweeping your house. Like moshayela mabale khaya using umshayelo, it does exactly the same work. The only intelligence on it, it knows exactly as it's sweeping what a content of that is got. And again, I mean, these are the all things when you're coming to washing off your clothes. It's no longer just no sinking, no machine, but that machine can talk into all other devices, switch itself on and switch itself off. And this is where the fourth industrial revolution has been for us. One key thing, as I wrap it down, is to understand that majority of these things are really based on knowledge economy, and they're really based on us acquiring more. Such session, you would have gone to a college, somewhere, or school or university to come and get this knowledge. We're actually disseminating it in the ANC the way we're doing today, because we're trying to wake up some of us as parents, some of the people who have joined as a young people, as a youth league, or some people who've got kids with them around them, to say, this is possible. We can start not only just dream about this, but we can create it to start doing the things that you wanted to do. And again, start talking our language, which is the most important part. So one key thing, as I just want to just close up on this particular segment, I want us to understand that next week, as we're doing this particular part of coding, we'll be talking about how then to input information to all these computers. How do they end up being able to know who you are? And how do you end up knowing your temperature? And how do they end up knowing so many things of clever things that we thought that were not going to be possible, but now they're made possible by just being able to work with devices, and the devices talk to each other. So, comrade, I wanted just maybe to kind of like use this as a wrap up around this. For people who have not seen a part, I would like you to go to Google, any searching engine, being whatever you use. Please use that to actually search for this Grasshopper app as I've spoken about for next week, so that at least then by next week when you start talking about some of the things, it just makes sense to you, because I know while you're in the call, you won't be able to do some of the things that you would be showing. So it'd be nice if ever you would have done some homework. So when you start talking about coding, teaching you how the instruction through coding is being done, then you will have some clue and understanding on how this particular thing work. So with the form that is being circulated now, or where you are busy filling in the information on the IM, please just understand this is how we're going to communicate to you and give you more instruction for next week, so that by the time we actually meet next week, you will have done some very good work just to understand some of the good things that we'll be talking about next week and make your life easy. So I will really like to thank everybody who came into this particular course, and I will do the honorable things because I can see there's leadership in this particular call. I will give it to Sasa Noma or Comrade Tandy, which just to recognize the leadership that you've got that are joining us today, and be able to thank all the members and all the leaders of the ANC and leaders of society who have joined this particular learning and lesson for today. I will change over to Sasa Noma, Comrade Tandy.
No, thanks, Comrade Sandile, for the great session. Thanks very much, and to all who have joined. But I will request Comrade Tandy just to appreciate and recognize those who are here, because I'm already on my way from office. I'm unable to can drive and check who is on the app as I'm using the vehicle microphone. So, Comrade Tandy, I will appreciate if you do the honors, but thanks very much to all those who have joined.
Thank you very much, leaders. Thank you very much, comrades. Thank you very much, Comrade Sandile, for the presentation. We have learned a lot today. Let me thank everyone that I see on the platform, because you see, we are a bit many, and I'm also unable to see all of them, but I have seen Comrade Tsidi in the platform. I also have seen Comrade Opatolo on Facebook. So I have seen also my colleague, Comrade Upem Malele, whom we are also driving this technology together in the CDT. All of the councillors that have joined, the ANC branches that have joined, the zones that have joined. I've seen many zones. I've seen many of the comrades that are also in the subcommittee, FBO subcommittee. I also seen my zonal leadership in Zone 12 and many other zones. So let me just say thank you very much for coming, but also let me give the person that actually deals with this work, Comrade Nomazwe, who is driving the ICT in the FBO and also in the communications subcommittee, Comrade Sasa, as we are working together in this work. Let me also thank you, Comrade Sasa, for us to do this work together. As you can see, today when we are armed to have everyone on the line, we only have 60 plus or close to 70. But last time when we started, we were above 100 and something. And I also think the reason for that, it is the load shedding that is facing us in the country, because I believe that there were also other people from other provinces that wanted to join us. Unfortunately, I can't see. They will tell me if they were here, but I have seen comrades coming from all different zones in Johannesburg region, and also even those that I don't know them by names, but I've seen them. They've attended last week, last week when we had the training. So I've seen also Comrade Katu assisting us in responding to the questions that was online. Thank you very much. The leaders, I've seen Comrade Aubrey also, who presented excellent presentation last time when we met. So let me just give it to Comrade Nomazwe, who is the leader of this task team, so that she can also say something. And then we can then move further. I've seen that Comrade Katu have posted a registration, and comrade leaders, Sandil in particular, and Comrade Sasa, comrades in the platform were asking where are their information that we promised to give it to them last week. Can we also respond to that before we close? Before the Comrade Nomazwe comes in, can we respond to the information that was presented when we started 2 weeks ago, so that comrades will know maybe how to navigate and check what was presented, especially as you have done all what was done last week so that it reminds comrades. So let's do that before I allow Comrade Nomazo to come in and say something. But for the team that is putting up this work, thank you very much, comrades. Let's continue until we are done. Comrades, until we have finalized our term, as we have said in the first poster, that we will do until August. So let's just be patient. Last week, we were not able to do this because you know that the team were busy with the funeral of our mayor. So this time we hope that we are not going to stop, but we are going to continue because comrades also don't want to forget about what they have learned. So over to you, Comrade Sandile and Comrade Katu, so that you can talk about what was supposed to have been sent to comrades that are on the line. Thank you.
Leaders, I think I'll work with Comrade Katu. He will circulate a link. We will then use that link and we'll load all the presentations there. So you can have presentation from the first week into this particular week, and everything continuous will just be loading the same place. We apologize that it's not yet been set up, and I think we know what happened last week that we have focused on. So going forward, we'll set up that link and then to be circulated. So it's important again to give us your information through the form, so that the Christian will be able to email you the link and then you can have access into it. So I think Kati will be responsible for that, and he will be able to just liaise and make sure that every comrade knows where to get the link and how to navigate the link, and will give some instructions whenever he emails the link to everybody. So I will hand over to Comrade Nomazo to just be able to finish up for us, and then we'll be closed for a day. Leadership.
Thank you very much, comrades. Thank you very much, comrade, our comrade convener, Comrade Tandi, and Comrade Sasa. Thank you very much for your leadership and for your support. Thanks to the team, Comrade Sandile, for the great presentation. Indeed, we have learned a lot from today's module. Comrades, we really once more would like to thank you for attending this session. I think indeed we are moving, and we really have seen how we have evolved as a people to be where we are right now. We really appreciate all the efforts, fellow team members, that we are putting together to ensure that we deliver this product to our comrades and our leaders. Comrades, once more, just a reminder that next week we will be having our third module, which is an introduction to basic coding 101. And yes, we are looking forward to it. Comrade Sandile, Comrade Katu, Comrade Vuyo, all team members, yes, it's all hands on deck. But of course, just for tonight, comrades, let's keep warm, stay safe, and meet again in the next session. Thank you very much, comrades. I'm not sure, Comrade Sandile, if you would like to make any announcement before we then adjourn the session. Thank you very much, comrades.
Thank you very much, Comrade. There's no announcement on my side except that the homework is clear, and I hope people are starting to be in that part. And again, please do send us your details through the form that has been, the link has been put into the IM. We will then give even more insight for next week, so that at least you can come prepared and understand what you're going to do. We really appreciate all the messages are going to be, again, handled by Okatu, and we really appreciate, comrades, the attendance. We really looking forward to more weeks and more of learning from each other. Thank you, comrades. We are off. Thank you. And
also, Comrade Sandile, we must also thank those that have joined on Facebook. There were some few, there are some, there is a question there, but I think we can deal with it in the next meeting.
Oh, okay. No, we'll look at that and then we'll deal in the next meeting. And I really do thank and acknowledge people who are joining us on Facebook. Thank you very much, Comrade Sandy, for acknowledging that. Comrade, you are done. And thank you very much, Comrade Sasa, for managing all the good technical things for us.
Amandla.
Amanza.
Away too.
We've
Amanda. Thank you, comrades.
Thank you, comrade.
let me use my power
Comrade,
to
thank
dismiss
you.
Amanda.
Lela Fodela.